Hello, and welcome to another episode of TacoBytes, your daily bite of Degen, episode number 968, coming to you live from somewhere, nowhere, Dallas, Texas. As always, it is great seeing everyone tonight. I want to thank everyone on LinkedIn, Player One Taco YouTube, 0x Degens YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Telegram, Rumble, Kick, on-chain via Abstract, on-chain via Arena, and those later on watching on both Pump Fun and a few other places. Thank you. And then for those that are joining us via Twitter video, shout out. All comments are live. And what up, Lurky?
Those later on watching on both.
So yeah, that is one of those things that you always got to sort of be mindful of, knowing where things have to be muted, because you would think after 968 episodes, I would have this down to a science. I don't. I'm a human being. But today we have some cool stuff coming on. I want to shout out to Lurky. What's up? Man, it is a good day. It's been a crazy day, to say the least. The week has been amazing. We have a really cool guest today. Marina S. We're going to talk about her in just a second, but there has been some really interesting things that have been happening in the entire world of AI, with the biggest piece right now actually sort of being really cool. Well, maybe I just should say that it makes my heart happy in a way. Anthropic has canceled whether or not they've come to terms, but has canceled OpenAI's access to their API because violating terms and services. Now, I'm sure they were trying to find some sort of way and reason to get this to happen in some shape capacity. So seeing this happen in this format is a really interesting thing, because there's just a lot going on there. Now, as we know, one of the biggest things that is dear and dear to my heart is the privacy side of things. And so seeing what has been going on recently with even Sam Altman coming out, because, I sort of feel like he is heading off class action lawsuit, because it is now found that anytime you have shared a conversation from ChatGPT by creating a link, that is now an indexed Google searched indexed chat with over 10,000 conversations indexed now on the Wayback Machine, hosted by Internet Archives. And so that means that there's some people that don't use new chat feature. They just have one long continuous chat. So if you asked a question 10 days ago on ChatGPT, and then, someone, your therapist or something like that says, hey, explore this, and you're like, cool, I like this conversation I had, let me share this section, and you hit share, that entire conversation piece is now, has now been posted to the internet, and not really private. And this sort of what's really cool is because that sort of touches this bone of this conversation with on AI and education and how we're moving that forward. And that's an important piece to sort of like be aware of, because that's just sort of how it is. We have to be mindful. We have to be good keepers of privacy, of those sides of things. And so there's a lot of cool ways that you can use AI, and we're going to talk about some of those. But for a lot of people, it's just really fresh, and I don't want to say scary. It's just something new, because Jason Voorhees coming after you with a machete is scary. Talking to a robot shouldn't be. And so we have from the Morpheus community, we have Ludwig Academy, and we have, like I said, Marina joining us on stage to sort of talk about all of that stuff. Marina, how are you doing today?
I am doing great, and thank you for having me on your 968th episode, Taco. Wonderful to finally, we actually met at New York Tech Week when you were on stage sharing about Reddit and how there was a whole controversy that you was not brought to light until it was brought to light, where most of OpenAI and I guess Google's Google as well was getting all of their data from Reddit, and now users must pay for that. And you were really shining a torch on that, and I thought that was fantastic, because I've gone to so many different AI events and no one talks about this stuff. So when I serendipitously discovered that Ludwig is working with Manifest AI, and obviously this is all full circle because you were also a part of Manifest AI, and yeah, that just was super cool. And here we are today talking about AI in education. So thanks for having me.
No, definitely. And what's real, we actually have an AI listening to us right now. I want to shout out to Lurky, that has joined the show. So there's you've heard of the platform Virtuals at all?
No, I haven't.
So Virtuals is sort of like a launch pad for AI agents on using tokens. And so like there's a lot of different ones that have come out of there. I've had a few friends launch different AI agents, and this is working really heavy on like the token economy. It's outside of Morpheus and Manifest ecosystems. It's just one of those really cool things. And Lurky is basically our Twitter space is getting like indexed and listened to and transcribed automatically for us. And then they make like this really cool mind map of the conversation.
That's awesome. I'm gonna have to check it out.
It is pretty awesome. And so we have some amazing people joining us on our space, and we have you in the space, but because we're doing video at the same time, it's not advised for you to come up on stage, because then you get into a reverb and all of these things. But we're definitely gonna re-pull that Reddit stuff and like some of the new stuff on the headlines. But like let's dive into you. What do you do? Or what have you done before? Well, let's go back. What have you done? What's your pedigree?
So my background is actually over a decade of marketing and branding and entrepreneurship, hardcore entrepreneurship, kind of on a global scale. Graduated into a pretty rough economy, and as an entrepreneur got very creative and ended up in New York and then in Tokyo, where at the time had an opportunity to niche it into in a spa, launched that thing, and then we had an exit, a $10 million exit, but it wasn't the traditional techie kind. So you really have to sit down with me for that story. But that was kind of how I got into the whole startup world without ever trying. And really it's been marketing and branding and like launching digital programs. It started in the healthcare space because I was a holistic wellness coach. Never planned on that, but that's life, throws you these weird curveballs. And then I ended up in Morocco a few years later by choice as a journalist. So pretty good at that space, investigating and finding like what's new, cool, and trendy. It's one of the reasons I stumbled upon Web3. And I launched a social media agency out there, and it was fantastic, and stayed for 5 years because I had this dream of redeveloping the brand in wellness that I started in Japan, but in Morocco. And what had happened during that time was I was there during COVID, and the world, as we all know, went upside down. And Morocco is awesome, but it's literally 10 years behind. And when you're away from family and friends and everyone's talking about digital tokens and crypto and Web3, and you don't even know what these words mean, you start to get scared. So about 2 proper years ago, I had a 2-year anniversary properly last year of being back in Boston, where I'm from. I came back here, and as the marketer researcher mindset that I have, I said, okay, let's stop doing B2C marketing, because it just is not nearly as cool in Boston as it was in Morocco and in Africa. And let me dive into B2B. Let me work with startups. And everyone who has a startup or has worked with startups know that's a really crazy space. You got to be very brave to be in it. Very few actually make it. And if you want to work with the startup space, you really need to work with the ones that have already seen traction and funding. And so I ended up meeting the president of Ludwig. He wasn't the president of Ludwig at the time. because I'm a marketer and brander, and he was a developer for Wix Enterprise and Company. And when he got into this very cool accelerator out in Austin, Texas, about 6 months ago, that was a transformative moment for him. We stayed in touch. And just because all the dots connected, he invited me to start pursuing AI in education because I was already working with a lot of AI startups. The education thing was very random. I've actually just remembered, I talk about memory loss. I've remembered that I was a teacher in Japan for 4 years. I forgot. I literally, I swear to God, I was teaching originally for a very proper company out there named GABA Japan. It was for my visa, but it was like a real job for 4 years, and it was one-to-one. And they were not using AI, but reflectively, they are using a model that's kind of similar to personalization, kind of with the AI model we see now. So the AI model we see now, one school that Roger, the president of Letwick, happens to build for and work with, Alpha, it's all over the headlines these days because the kids spend 2 hours learning with a personalized AI, and then they build businesses the rest of the day. So very innovative stuff. And when I was a teacher out in Japan at GABA, I thought it was incredible that the students were learning. Were like learning with personalized technology on their own, and then they would come into my booth every day for 40 minutes as opposed to an hour. And I was their guide. I was their lecturer. And that's actually kind of exactly the model. So this is now 10 years later that Ludwig is doing. So what am I doing with Ludwig? I'm not a real teacher there, although I guess at this point I have had the proper experience. But I'm more of like a cheerleader, a motivator, because if you study AI, if you study education, even if you're not an educator, what you begin to realize is the biggest problem is motivation. And this is what the data is showing. It's not the successful AI in education startups or programs. They're succeeding because somehow they have found a way to motivate the children. This is why Alpha is absolutely killing it. It's for K to 12 learners.
You're diving deep into a lot of things.
Oh,
I want to
sorry.
talk about all of them. And so
Yeah.
I don't have, just like you, forgetting about things that like being a teacher.
Yes.
I don't want to miss some of these things. So let's slow down for just a second. So
Sure.
let's talk about what Alpha School is in Austin.
Okay. So Alpha School is a school that was started by the founder, Mackenzie Price, I believe 8 years or so ago. And it was started from like a rental house. So just very small classrooms. And then a few years ago, as it always happens, there was a very, wealthy, prominent man who put his daughter in the school, Alpha School, and he decided he wanted to put a lot more capital into it and give it a proper opportunity to flourish and grow because he saw the technology they were using with AI was working. And so he has been helping to expand Alpha School. It was recently in the New York Times for its innovation. And the reason it's so innovative is because the kids learn just with AI 2 hours a day, about 25 minutes per subject in math and science, like 15, 20 minutes more. And the rest of the day, they just play. And the teachers are not even allowed to interfere with the studying. And I know that will upset a lot of teachers. And I've been in a lot of different meetings and interviews and calls and in X Space. One of the co-presenters I'm about to go on stage with in Massachusetts in real life is Mike Grandinetti. He's been a professor lecturing at the Harvard level, Ivy League, Carnegie Mellon, like the top names in the world. And he's an award-winning professor. And he was on a recent X call with an AI engineer who built for Alpha. And they were having a little debate, like, are teachers necessary? Because Alpha doesn't even let the teachers interfere. And so the consensus is they're necessary, but not necessarily for teaching like core subjects at an early stage, because unfortunately data shows that humans are apparently not as effective as teaching, but we absolutely need teachers there, just in a different capacity, as collaborators, as guides. This is a very revolutionary approach to school, so a lot of people are going to be in an uproar, but the data is showing this is true.
Well, so, and that like that's a very easy, like, so this is sort of where your role comes in, because what teachers are good at is inspiration, role models. Like the teachers that are near and dear to me, which is really hilarious. Like one of my Miss Jenkins, uh, what I don't even remember what course she taught me, even though it was all in Japanese. I don't remember what course it was, but Miss Jenkins stayed with me, in my head as like, someone who put time and effort into me as the rambunctious, horrible child, Dennis the Menace child that I was. And so like, but that's one of the really big pieces that we see there. It's not necessarily, oh, like this was an amazing teacher. I learned so much. Well, what did they teach? They taught me so much about life and like how to be a person. Yeah, but what did they teach you? Oh, it was my automotive teacher, or it was my math teacher. And so like, it's not necessarily the education, the subject matter, like you were saying. It's how do they inspire you and push you on? And that's where, I think Alpha School is sort of putting it in its place, that like, it's really the motivation side of things. And AI is being used in a way that to educate these kids at their pace. And so everyone's sort of at a different speed, but like the end goal is to get to this end goal, and how they get to their, because everyone sort of thinks differently. And so I think that's sort of a really cool piece. So rolling this back a little bit more, Morocco.
Yeah.
Okay. What brought you to Morocco?
So let's see what brought me to Morocco. So I had been living in Japan for most of my 20s, and it was the best experience of my life, but it was very far away from Boston. And it was just life. Like life throws you in curveball situations. And I was with a partner for many years. And after we decided to split ways, I kind of reflected and I said, do I want to be working in a 9 to 5 job in Boston? And I said, probably I will die. Although, these days I've changed so much that I feel like that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, because I just value different things now, right?
Yes.
But at the time it felt like death. And I was such an entrepreneur without even realizing it, that I decided I'm going to go back to my dream to live in Spain. And I ended up becoming a teacher in Spain for K to 12 for the visa. And to pursue entrepreneurship. It's much harder to get a visa in Spain than it is, or in Europe, than it is in Morocco. And after trying Spain, England, and Greece for almost a year, and like failing at getting the visa all those times, I said, okay, it's time to either come back to Boston or what. And the or what was, let's go to Morocco, because I had always wanted to go to Morocco. I did a lot of things in school. I even had 2 degrees. One degree was in marketing, and then the other degree, my school allowed me to create from scratch. So I've always been a different, strange educational thinker, like very non-linear creative thinker is what they call me. And so I had done an internship as a journalist for a Spanish digital paper, and also for a woman in New York, a world music magazine publisher. She inspired me to learn about Morocco. She did not pay me very well, but she was very inspiring. And so when I decided to go back to Morocco, I reached out to her and I said, I'm coming. And she offered me a full-time role as her website, like as a journalist, as her website editor, like SEO guru kind of person. And I did that for a year until I opened up my own social media agency, because my hair fell off from working that much, and I couldn't have that it wasn't worth it. So I stayed there, but COVID happened, and I decided to endure, because good things take time, and it just took too much time. And so at the 5th year mark, I said, I have to go home. So I came home.
Okay. All right. And you also have Japan in your repertoire of living and running a business there and everything, a startup there. And so,
yeah.
But so that started like really heavy on like the technology side and SEO side of things. And now we've gone And so when would you say your crypto journey sort of started, your Web3 journey?
Yeah, that's a super good question. It started during COVID, not from a technical place, more from just like a, oh my God, what the hell is this thing? I need to learn it. I need to use it. I need to go back home because
Mhm.
I know that Boston is going to be like a tech spot. New York will be a tech spot. So when I came back to Boston, I was in the tech space. And all I wanted to do is learn more about Web3 and maybe do marketing for a blockchain or Web3 company. That was my goal. I just wanted to use my social media for something relevant. And there wasn't much happening. So I actually flew myself out to San Francisco. I had been working with a company called VNEC Media. They do amazing campaigns, and I was doing a lot of work with them, even from Morocco. And so I was doing that. But when I went to San Francisco, they have a spin-off company because a lot of spin-offs happened during COVID called Funworthy, and they worked with companies and help them raise and all these things. And I started to go out, meet with investors, go to a lot of the blockchain and Web3 events, meet the community, like the entire Web3, Solana, Ethereum community, go to all these geeky events. I didn't know what I was listening to be honest, but I kept saying, guys, like to my team at Funworthy, because they invited me to join because they were like, you're doing all the things and you're meeting all the people, so we might as well just come on board. I kept bringing them startups. Some of them were doing very well in the blockchain and Web3 space, and unfortunately, they didn't have that in their portfolio. They weren't ready for Web3. They weren't ready for blockchain. And so finally, they kind of they passed me off to Roger Hunt, who is now the president of Ludwit. And they basically said, listen, we love you and we just can't we cannot listen to you talk about Web3 and blockchain anymore. Go meet Roger and you guys can talk about this all day long. And so Roger and I met, and this was about a year ago. And from the first phone call, he tried to sell me a utility token. And I was like, excuse me, I am your teammate. We do not sell things to your teammate. We work together.
We totally sell things to our teammates. Like, what? Yeah.
So
Wait, what token was he trying to sell you?
It's called the OHF token. It stands for
oh fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he tried to sell me the token, and I was like, look, dude, like, I'm not buying your token and I'm not going to pay you to talk to you. You should pay to talk to me. But we ended up getting along very well. And because I had so many awesome Web3 and blockchain companies, and he knew exactly like who to share them to and position them to, we began to collaborate. And so that's how I got into that space. And we were also working together he was a developer for Wix, as I said. So we were just working together. And he taught me how to, he invited me to actually become a community facilitator for the OHF token. And so I began to do a lot of word of mouth marketing for it. And when I would go out to New York City or Boston, I was sharing the utility token. I helped onboard people, I forced investors to purchase the token if they wanted access, or if it forced like startups to purchase the token if they wanted access to the investors. So it was an interesting moment. It wasn't a complete success. It was just a very hard utility token to
What was the
whatever
utility?
shell. The utility was at the time, I think it's changed now, but when Roger was working with Wix, he had this incredible MVP offer of 5K, where if you bought a certain amount of the token, you would get like 2 hours of his time, unlimited, and he would promise to build you whatever you needed for your website or MVP for 2 hours at a time. So basically you could buy him for life for 2 hours for like $2,000 if you held the token. He really cared about the token. But funny, as it turns out, he now has a completely different role. So I don't know how that's working out, but that's how I got into the space. And now, so even though we're talking about AI and education with Letwit, you might be very like interested to hear that it's not, Ludwit is also on chain. So there's a part of Letwit that runs its AI compute on the Morpheus Beta API. And also its endowment is through a subnet. So there is definitely this component to Ledwidge where it's very different. So whereas like Harvard and Yale, they're essentially hedge funds, we are accountable to the community that stakes to our subnet. And
Yep.
so supporters, they can, retain custody of their More token, and they can obviously pull out. So it's a very revolutionary model. And so we're definitely proud of that. And I'm still new to the space regarding Morpheus and our subnet community, but I think it's great.
Yeah, no, and it was I think I fall under the category of early code contributor to Morpheus. I can sort of talk on that piece because this is the weird, like you said. It was so New York was such a last minute decision almost. Like I decided to go to New York Sunday night, and I think and then I flew there either Monday night or Tuesday night. I think I flew Monday night to give a talk Tuesday morning, because I just spent 10 days in Las Vegas for BTC Las Vegas, Litecoin Summit, XRP, Tokenize, and BitAngels. And so I just spent 10 days on the road, and I was like, all right. And I had this big European Asian trip coming up, and I was like, and then Near AI gave me a call, and they were like, hey, like, we would love you on this panel with us, with what you're building at Manifest. Can you come and talk? And I was like, yeah, I can. And so like I literally was sitting in the airport, like, should I just like fly from Vegas to New York and like be in New York for an extra day? I wanted to go home. I wanted to drop my swag off. I wanted to do laundry. And so I went home for like not even 24 hours. And then I was on a flight, and what's really freaking cool. So I have it somewhere. I think it's in this bag down here. But Pace University, the business, the Joseph Lubin School of Business. So,
That's right.
which has, Joseph Lubin, of Consensus, and Ethereum as well. So it has a Web3 tie there. But so I was talking about how like data privacy and data ownership. And so one, we had the whole, one of the big things I touched on was ChatGPT and getting a court order to store all outputs and IP addresses of the receiver of those outputs in a separate, I say public. Some people might say that's a federal database. And I'm like, yeah, that's a public database. And, so just the security of those conversations, and then talking about what Reddit did with selling user data because users were trying to own their own data, because all social media, technically you own your data in one aspect, but you're through terms and conditions, you're leasing it, allowing them, by them utilizing the platform, they're paying you to lease your information just by using their platform, that they can go do whatever they want with it. And in that case, Reddit had sold all 20, their 20 plus, for $22 million, they had sold everyone's information, and they tried to stop Vana and data DAOs when people were using the download my data and uploading it into token sets. And so it was really interesting to sort of see how that sort of like backfired on Reddit. And this is when the power, how like individually one person's data is not worth anything really. It's what we're talking about, large data sets or subgroup data sets. So like and what's really hilarious is I met a company when I was in Paris at the Raise Summit recently, and they're an email organizer tool to make people's life simpler. But part of their terms and conditions is that they're allowed to scrape all the data from all of your emails. that no one knows about. Like, so they have 6 million customers of emails that they're just scraping all of those emails and then batching that data together and selling that access. And that's just a crazy piece. So like if you're looking for, men that are between 24 and 28 that have a Netflix subscription, boom, and like, this is like, these data sets are really important right now in training models because it's not public data. It's private. It's what's considered behind paywalls or behind data and stuff like that. Because all public information has already been tokenized in the aspect of not Web3 tokenization of a ERC20 SPL token, but in data set tokenization and indexed and processed for training models.
Mhm.
It's this paywall of information, private health information, that's where like the money is right now on data sets and actually math equations, which is really cool. And so getting mathematicians to do equations for AI and show it different, like highlight different functions and parts of an equation to like walk it through and teach it complex math, which is sort of cool. But like privacy was a big piece of that conversation. And so I like, that was such a last minute thing. Huge shout out to the the two students that put that on, and Near AI for inviting me to come speak on that, because that was sort of fun, and with where Manifest sort of lies in that is on that data protection of sovereign data cloud. And so it was a really fun thing. And then the roundabout reach that like through Morpheus to Manifest back to you and Roger was sort of really a fun sort of circle of life type of thing. So
Absolutely. It was very serendipitous, and I was shocked. I had to scroll down through my posts because I remember what you guys had shared regarding the Reddit signing multiple content licensing deals with OpenAI and Google were so shocking. Like no one really talks about that stuff as openly as you did, at least at that time. So I posted about that, and you retweeted it, so I remembered your name, and like Player Taco is it's a unique name, so well done. And so I was like, is this the same person? And it was. And I remember contacting Roger, and I'm like, is this the same? Like, is Morpheus an AI and like Taco? Like, is there some connection here? And I know you guys are Manifest AI, and I'm still kind of learning how that intertwines with Morpheus. But clearly it does, because you host your Monday podcast. So
yeah, no,
that was a very cool full circle moment.
Yeah, no, every Monday we host the Manifest Morpheus Monday space, which is pretty fun. So you went there for Tech Week. Why that specific talk?
I know. That's a very good question. And I don't remember, it was several months ago, and I've been to many cities and events, I think, since then, but it just stood out to me. It was in blockchain and Web3 events in general are very interesting and very important. It doesn't mean that I always understand them to the same level that the people involved in the space are in, even though I'm technically by default on many occasions so involved. I'm still not deep in the space. I'm not mining for Bitcoin. I'm not really doing any of the things that require portals and nodes and APIs. I don't know, but I just know it's a very important space. We're building on it. It's democratizing a lot of the financial world. It's now democratizing the educational space, or at least that's our goal. So I would like to be involved in it. It's not going anywhere, just like AI in education is not going anywhere. So in order for me to be a contributing member of our society as it is evolving, I should be there. I should listen. And I also think, because at the time it was also convenience. I like to be efficient. So I was just, my apartment where I was staying for those weeks was very close to downtown. And I said, okay, it's my topic. It's local to where I am. I'm going.
Was there any, so I literally, I got in the night before, and then I left and I went to a meeting, and then I went home. I went back to the hotel, and then I left. Was there like, so how was the rest of Tech Week for you?
Yeah, so this time it was very different. I'm usually, when I first got back to the States 2 years ago, I knew almost nobody except the company that I had like been working and consulting with, but that's, 4 people. And sorry, my throat's, I'm gonna use some lavender essential oil to relax this throat.
Yeah.
It's interesting because it's midnight here in Boston, and I'm happy to be on the chat, but it is interesting because I said, do you really want to do this so late? And you're like, yeah, that's when the Degen community is online. I'm like, okay, you guys are an interesting bunch. So sorry if my throat's getting scratchy, but
Okay.
the question was, how was the rest of Tech Week? Normally in the past, I would go to many, many events. I think altogether I went to 6 or 7. So this Tech Week felt very different. I was very intentional. Like I only went to the ones like Adobe Create. I went to yours. I went to a friend's, Prince Rumi, it's his like real name, who has Madeline and Co., which is a really great marketing AI platform. So it was just very, and like also there were just some founder friends who were doing incredible things, and they were very intentional with their list. So I can't speak for the whole of Tech Week, but this Tech Week, I was just intentional about not spreading myself too thin. And of course, AI, not shockingly, was a topic. And I think it was good. I can't say that I met you, so it was great.
Yay. Yeah, no. After that, went back home for a few days, and then I was in Singapore. Went up to Malaysia with Morpheus and stuff like that.
Amazing.
Talk at APAC University. Back to Singapore for Super AI. New York for Permissionless, and then went to Cannes for ETHCC and ETH Global, and then Paris for Raise AI Raise Summit, and then I think Tuesday I head back to Vegas for Rare Evo.
You don't miss a beat, do you? You go to all of them. You're everywhere.
Yeah, that's sort of what I'm known for, but that's where I sort of find, for me, like that's my. I like to sort of like the running joke is I'm like back in college days, running across the quad to your different classes and stuff like that. Unfortunately for me, they put all my classes on different points of the world. So,
it's not. I mean, do you enjoy it?
oh heck yeah.
Okay, so you're aligned. It all worked out.
Yeah, it has all worked out, and so this is sort of where like Ludwig has really sort of taken here, Mr. Cat.
That is Mr. Cat. Mr. Cat is very chatty right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where Ludwig's sort of coming in on a really interesting play for those that don't know, with Morpheus being sort of like the top of the funnel protocol side of things, staking ETH via ST ETH. So you're always in custody of your ETH. You're earning more token while your drip from your ST ETH is going to providing liquidity for the more token. And then while you're earning more is being split up into 4 different buckets: capital code, compute, and what used to be called community, but now is called builders, aka subnets. And so it's a really interesting play here, because what has sort of happened now there's almost 200 subnets, and anyone can create a subnet, and then people stake to it, and then every month there's a snapshot and a distribution based on who's staking their more to what, and more is distributed. And this is one of those things to where it, like for Ludwig, it's allowing them to sort of raise as an endowment rather than, as you said, like running a hedge fund. And so they're, the idea is to eventually subsidize education side of things. And one of the things that Roger has, and I don't know how much we can talk on it, but started off, as you said, projects that have a proven track record. And right now they have Trinidad. Ludwig Academy has Trinidad under their belt, where they're running their cohort there, and now you're building out a cohort as well. And so I want to talk a little bit about like what the syllabus is and what's the whole purpose of this cohort?
Absolutely. So the purpose in general is to decentralize AI in education, because what we're about to see, if this doesn't happen, is going to be an even larger, a larger gap in our socioeconomic groups for the children. It's just reality. So AI is coming into schools, ready or not. There's a lot of resistance, whether you're public or private, but it is coming in. And it's also helping the children of all ages to learn so much faster. So what we're trying to do at Ludwig is we're working, and Trinidad is a perfect example. We're working with everyone from underserved, underprivileged communities to, your regular community, but we're making sure that we're helping them to learn the basic skills that we consider essential at this point in time. And those skills start from platforms like GitHub to Vercel, to Cursor, and the list goes on and on. With Letwit, at the program that I'm trying to help fill for September 15th. It's the cohort of 20. We're targeting students that are basically like zero technical background experience. And it's because we believe that if you don't have those like basic skills, and basic now is GitHub, Cursor, Vercel, and so on, you will not be able to contribute meaningfully to the economy. And obviously that's going to make people lose morale, lose motivation. It's not going to be pretty. What is going on in Trinidad is extremely unique. There was everything that we have learned with AI in education is it has to go through existing relationships, through communities. And this is an example. We wanted to reach out. We have an existing relationship with Morpheus, and, Roger knows you much better than myself, but the point is an existing relationship was there. It's very difficult to bring this technology, even if it's amazing, like Alpha, into a school. There is too much bureaucracy. So what they did with Trinidad is Roger had an existing relationship with someone of many years, and she introduced him to the Rose Foundation. Now, the Rose Foundation, as it aligned, just happened to be magic. They were looking to work with a school or a system that could bring technology to their youth, because as Trinidad, they really value education. So Roger was looking for a foundation or a leader who already had access to students. And so it was like the perfect match, to halves looking for one another. You look confused. Do you follow me?
I'm on board. No, I was trying to find on the side, I was trying to find the subnet to share that as well. And
Okay.
so I'm confused by what I'm not
Oh,
finding.
okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
But I know, because I know all of this information already.
Okay.
So
Gotcha.
I'm going to break it down in just a second. So keep going.
Okay, so what ended up happening was, the introduction was made, and as you can also imagine, it wasn't so smooth. Even though people value education, even though the Rose Foundation had a potential grant to distribute to this, parents and students needed to be inspired. They needed to actually understand why this was important. And they realized that very quickly with Lorraine, who is the community facilitator initiative in Trinidad, and Roger, and they held 3 different sessions, all virtually, of course. Rogers was in Austin, they were in Trinidad, and through those sessions, they really began to feel inspired that this was the right decision. And so they are now, I think, in their 7th session, and there's an actual program, a real curriculum, where the students go in, and they, again, most of them, I was listening to one of the sessions, there was a 14-year-old student who literally had to ask how to copy and paste.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so that's like one opposite extreme. And then there's others that are more advanced. So they have a curriculum they follow, they get as far as they can get. The ones that are flying, there's advanced models for them, but most of them were targeting less experienced tech users.
And we've seen this model work a few different times. Like one shout out to Unit Network and what they've done. We've seen, and then the other one that's big right now as well is what Maggie Love has been doing over at EST Fri, where they're sort of taking people, and this is more blockchain rather than AI, but like we're going to start seeing, I think, more of this sort of come. And so this is being sort of a perfect blend. But right now it's targeting youth. And so you're not necessarily bringing the blockchain side into it. You're bringing almost the developer builder side to it, rather than people being products and consumers, giving them the tools to be creators at such a young age. And we've seen this really take hold. I always forget Ahmad's last name, but Ahmad from Stability. He's moved on from creating Stability to intelligent internet now. And he sort of followed a little bit of a different path on it, of like getting 2,000 tablets, putting AI on it, and then giving it to, you know, African kids. And what they've seen is 4 years of education being learned in 6 months by kids, just, and not even teaching these kids what to do and what buttons to push. They're literally teaching each other, or figuring, because it's so easy these days, you know, doing it themselves and figuring it out. So it's an interesting play there. But this is like literally teaching them, instead of having them write a paper, you know, I'll take words out of Roger's mouth, you know, it's developing an application, and, you know, an application for understanding. And so how to develop a, you know, a GitHub profile, how to build out, you know, and utilize that and integrate that with Cursor or Windsurf or any other code computing platform, so people could literally make their own, kids could make their own application from day, you know, whatever. But you guys are taking an interesting approach, where you have the syllabus, the curriculum that's already been institutionalized, and you're sort of bringing it into one focus, and then you're playing the role of like motivator, but then bringing on experts as well for each of the classes to answer the more like technical questions, the technical support and stuff like that. But then you're there the rest of the time to help them.
Absolutely. That's exactly the case. Of course, I have some knowledge, but it's not required for me to have such technical knowledge to support the kids on those kind of questions. Those are addressed more during the sessions, which are all held on Twitter. Surprisingly, on Spaces, they have virtual classes, virtual, like what do they call, like after what, those professor sessions, like you get like one or three, I think 3 a week. And
tutoring.
What's that?
Not tutoring.
Not tutoring,
or like teacher hours, or
like open teacher hours, and they all come together, and you get support. I support them during the week to make sure that they're doing their course lessons, that they're not stuck. Again, it comes down to intrinsic motivation, and studies have shown that only 5% of people, especially children, are intrinsically motivated. So that makes it very difficult for the rest of the 95%. So that's where the coach, the guide, the motivator, the cheerleader is essential. And that's what they're doing at Alpha School. And even in China, which is absolutely our competitor right now, we're kind of in a Sputnik space race moment with them. But they have a platform called Squirrel AI. They have 24 million users onboarded, and they regularly test their teachers. And the AI combined with the teacher, or the super teacher, because they rank them based on their scores, those points for examinations, like the exams that the children produce, are so much higher with an AI tutor and a real teacher motivating. So the numbers are there, the logic is there, the story you told us, I think, will relate to every listener out there. I know myself, I've had the same experience. So yeah, it's just a different approach.
And for like, but this is more, this one is more youth centric, which is sort of cool, because I know, and I don't know, maybe we'll get into this a different time, but like Ludwig has bigger plans than just this, and on real accreditation, and is working it in Arizona right now. And so I think we'll get into that like maybe deeper on a different show. But like, what's really cool is that this is aimed at like parents in Web3 or AI that like might not like they want their kids to naturally pick up what they're doing, but this gives them all of the basics that they might not have. So like this is like a master class on creating for kids in a way, like so combination of STEM and AI in a really cool fashion. And so, but you're doing this at like a community level. So like you're not the only person doing this. Like the idea is to get lots of marinas around the world, you know, run
Exactly.
community leaders or cohort
Exactly.
leaders.
Exactly. And it's absolutely essential because we've already seen through our own work and the work of our predecessors at much larger scales that is, I don't want to say it's impossible to get the AI into the school system, but it's extremely challenging. There's a lot of resistance. So the approach that has been developed and is very effective is to present it as an extracurricular activity. And there are so many organizations and it's marketed normally it is quite expensive to learn these kind of tools, which we really as a society have to acknowledge they're becoming fundamental. They're not just like an accessory to know how to code or use GitHub or Cursor. Normally a program like this will cost $5,000 to $10,000 per student, but we're able to offer it at $500, you know, more or less. Like the numbers are still being figured out, but there's a big difference between a couple $100 and thousands of dollars. And through this community approach, especially working with pre-existing NGOs and good-hearted organizations, like we can match the organization that is naturally deploying with the students. And so for anyone listening out there, we do have a cohort, which will be our first US cohort starting on September 15th. And we can take up to 20 students, ages 14 to 25. So whether anyone listening out there is a leader or knows an NGO or is a part of one, this would be, and you're interested in this, like you believe in this initiative, this would be a great reason to connect with myself directly or Ludwit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like this is like almost like to community leaders as well. And so like I know I have there's a couple that I know that this would be something probably really cool for, you know, and but this is like one of those things to where like the idea, like how it pans out and how the idea is like a lot of these community centers and rec centers and after hours programs, they already have funding and they don't ever always have, like right now they're going to Mr. You know, Phil, you know, retired PE teacher, you know, or something like that. But like they're always looking for these extra programs to add on. So the idea is that this could be something that a community center could take on, and then, you know, kids from that could go through. And so like this is like looking at becoming like a real community focused piece and like hitting home. And so it's sort of a really cool thing there. I've been part of some really awesome like youth community things, like when I was trying to, you know, be a contributing member of society and like giving back, you know, working in IDD and homeless youth and stuff like that. So it was really cool to sort of see things like that grow up. And this is sort of why I thought that, you know, I'll be honest, I really thought it was like an honor from you and Roger to like want to be on this show to talk about that, because like this isn't what we talk about, stuff like this. I guess we somewhat educational in some way, shape, or form, but like this is one of those things where like you're actually like, I know like my protocol, my companies do like physical infrastructure and doing real things, but like this is like sort of removing the blockchain side. The blockchain side is removed from this on the consumer facing front side, and wanting to create smarter kids, smarter young adults, give them, you know, after school project hours, things to do. And so like that's gonna like you're gonna have an integral part on that. And so how long it's 5 weeks, right?
So it's a 6-week program.
6-week program. Okay.
Mhm.
So, and that's like, so that's 18 classes and stuff like that. Like, and then there's all like the, just like emails and all of those things in it built into it as well.
Exactly.
And I know like this is one of like this will be your first cohort that you're teaching and stuff like that. So it's going to be a learning process for you on how to deal with this, but you have what sounds like the background to sort of handle this. So like hats off to you for that. Like, you
Well,
know.
thank you. Well, it's an honor for us to be on the show as well. And I know that you've built a community that really respects you and cheers for you. And I heard about that all the way from New York at Tech Week. So it was like, who is this taco guy? But everyone's like, oh, taco, it's taco. I'm like, that's amazing. And now I'm on Taco Show.
It was so yeah, it was rather interesting how many people knew me when me randomly showing up that like, you know, opposite sides of the world, or like, hey, I saw you 3 years ago, or you know, you did this thing half a decade ago. And so like what's really cool, and like the only advice I can give you guys is be persistent, you know.
Mhm.
You know, and I've seen these things happen, you know, I've seen a few of them, but like what's really cool is how big they grow. Like I was a mentor for Unit Network cohort number 9. By their 9th cohort, it was like 500 people per call. And
Wow.
so like it was like that, like, you know, the what's really cool is like the benefits that like you want to see everyone succeed and go through all of it. So I think that that's a really cool thing that you get to sort of see. And you know, I'm excited to sort of see how this goes, you know. And I don't know. I think that there's going to be a lot of cool things coming out of this. So I'm actually really excited. You know, where I was gonna, you know, maybe try to audit it. You know, maybe not your first cohort, but maybe your second or third one if I have the time. You know, and just like because like I want to like I love seeing like because one of the really cool things that you were talking about was how the demonstration of skills like
Mhm.
will be building applications, not writing a paper, but do they understand a concept by building an application around that concept?
Exactly. And it can also just be as simple as a website, but the point is they will have, the 6 weeks, 3 sessions a week, all the motivation. And at the end, all of those things need to lead to something tangible. And this is the reason is because just having theoretical information, as we've known as students for decades now, like lifetimes, is just not helpful. It's not going to help us to be thriving members of society, help us get jobs, like negotiate contracts. Like we need real skills. And because of the way society is moving with AI, these are the skills that are going to be expected from us. They're going to be like, go and do this thing in Cursor. And like, if you don't even know what Cursor is, like, it's not going to look good. So,
Yeah, no, but well, and it's giving them tools to be able to build things themselves later on. Like, and that's sort of what
exactly.
was really cool where we're at. Like, it's like, um, you know, all of those little ideas for businesses, you now have the opportunity to go make a product out of it, an MVP, and see if people want it, you know. And we've seen a huge, what was really hilarious, what like so far how we've seen like the phases of AI so far. First it was like, you know, everyone like face swapping, you know, and then it was like these weird like hallucination dream videos, transformation videos, and then we've seen a bunch of different things come through. And right now it seems like all, at least on my timeline, what all of the agents or new products are is build your business that you always wanted to have, no coding required. And it's sort of really cool to see this sort of come to life where now you're giving young adults that opportunity as well. And hope, you know, I think I remember I made my first website when I was 8 and I got into a lot of trouble for it. That's a story for another time, but that was, yeah, I got into some trouble for making my first website. But like the tools that we have today could only be dreamed about, like weren't even dreamed about back then. And so I think this is some really cool stuff.
Absolutely. I cannot even imagine the website you must have built to get in trouble for it, but I'll leave that to all of our imaginations.
Yep.
And the only other thing I want to share that I forgot to share, but I think it'll be valuable for everyone listening, because I think we all love tools and we love to grow. In collaboration with Ledwit is another tool, another LLM called E4, so EPHOR. And it is this phenomenal tool, which has, I mean, the free version has only a couple LLMs. At the paid one, you get like every single LLM out there. But the best part about it is the brain lift. So normally if we go into any of the, ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, yes, we can work with it enough that it begins to recognize our patterns, especially ChatGPT, and that's awesome. But what E4 does, and I'm still just learning about it because I was very hard pressed to not transition onto it, but it's winning me over, is it studies, how we go onto Facebook or Twitter or any other platform, and then the algorithm learns our emotions, our movements. It starts to show us content it thinks we want. So the E4 technology has something called a brain lift, where you do need to do a little bit of like work to plug in the information in, but it begins to build an algorithm that's made just for you on whatever it is you're working on. So you could have like multiple projects. And this is even on the free version, which I think is really cool. So also Ledwit, clearly as a university, and including the students for the cohort, are invited to use E4. And we have some of the students, even from 14 and above, using it. So it's a very cool tool. It's something that everyone here can try. They don't have to be a part of the cohort. Definitely recommend it.
So, okay. And so like then, and I don't know if this is like questions for you or more like Roger stuff, but like the private, like we're going to be working with young youth and stuff like that. Where's privacy going to come into a play with this, and like on AI and teaching about permissions? Like, so like one of the things that I talk about like a lot is like how much data we give away. And we give it away out of convenience. We connect this account to that account to sign into this, and we're now giving all of that information that has to this. And like I looked at the permissions of this other app, I think it was last week, and really it was like the purpose for the connection to my Google Drive was so it could just save one file to Google Drive. But the permissions gave it the permission to read my entire and access any and parts of my Google Drive. And I'm like, you don't need that. And so are you guys going to be working on that side of things and like sort of teaching that and making that important?
I don't know if we're going to be teaching it, but I have a feeling that there will be a lot, or even a course on ethical AI. I know that Alpha School, so Ludwig is basically a spin-off of Alpha. So the philosophies and pillars and values are similar. Alpha School for K-12 does not really teach too much about ethics and responsible AI. It's integrated a little bit, but it lives it. It doesn't give away the data of the students. It has a lot of principles. So I know as the president of Ludwig, Roger is very much focused on responsible and ethical AI. In fact, he has a center, which I'm not going to go too deep into that, called the Center of Innovation and Ethics. So as a president, I'm sure he's going to put plenty of that in there. I also know, because I'm presenting for MassQ in a couple of days, I've done a lot of research on the kinds of ed tech companies that have been around, and there's been quite a few. The Zuckerbergs have funded 2 big ones over the years, and there's just been a lot of ed tech companies that have really made it through because they had massive funding behind it, and also had a lot of criticism. And it usually comes down to data privacy. I recently discovered that there's a whole case in Miami-Dade school region of 2 years ago. They were extremely against any kind of AI in the school. And about 3 months ago, they completely reversed their case. One of their biggest issues was on data privacy, and now they've decided to use Gemini, which is not a tool that I've seen used very often, but they're using Gemini, and the reason is because it's good somehow at limiting like the data being given out. So I think more and more companies are focusing on this, and for Ludwig, I have no doubt it's going to be something that the president, Roger, focuses on. Also, there was very recently a merger between the American Federation of Teachers and OpenAI and Anthropic and another organization. And in the next, I think, 8 years or so, by 2030, so 5 years, they plan to give out over $10 million to help bring AI in an ethical and responsible way into the classroom. So they'll be working with teachers, showing them how it works. So I think people are very concerned about it, and they understand the issue, and it's still a long journey, but it's coming around. Does that answer?
It does.
Okay.
And the fact that OpenAI is throwing $10 million at something when they just got raised $8 billion at a $300 billion valuation, I feel like they're just trying to buy someone. And so I don't know. It's sort of interesting, but that I'll be honest, scares me a lot more than what Gemini is doing. I think Gemini is Google's doing some cool stuff.
Mhm.
One of the things that I hindered myself on a lot is I tried out a lot of different AI tools, just like demos and stuff, never signing up for accounts. The big AI agent that I use and have used, for the last couple of years outside of trying, different things has been Venice. And
Mhm.
so just because I like on the private AI side of things. And so it's rather interesting to sort of see how this might go. But I don't know. I'm sort of excited to see how this happens and stuff. And so so your Twitter account is on the space and stuff like that, but you're not on stage. What's the best way for people to get a hold of you?
At this point, I have been instructed by the powers that be at Ludwig to really make my Twitter platform glow up. So please, if you could contact me there, that would make my day, because they're hard pressing me hard. Like, the only thing that matters these days is your Twitter. I don't know when that happened, but it's a thing right now. So if you guys can reach out to me there with any questions, it would be a pleasure to take them. I'm very active on my Twitter handle, which is just my name, Marina, with 2 A's at the end, Marina A Solovyov.
Solovyov. Yes. I said it.
You did. Good job.
Yay. So what else has been going on? What other cool things have you been seeing lately? And how's everything been?
In the AI and education worlds?
Sure. Because you have a talk coming up.
Oh, yes.
Like
Yes, I do.
Holyoke. How do you
Yeah,
Holy
so
Hope?
that's been a preparation at Mount Holyoke Community College, which is near Amherst, Massachusetts, where I went to school. There's it actually is a pretty big deal, and it's the first conference, like summit, if you could call it that, a gathering of all the main educators at university level and high school level, and I guess also middle school too. It's K through 12, and we're all gathering on August 6th for a day of listening to a couple presenters, myself and Mike Grandinetti, who I've mentioned before. He's had 8 exits on NASDAQ. He's had IPOs, and he's been a professional professor at some of the most renowned schools in the world, including Harvard and Brown and Carnegie Mellon, and the list goes on and on. So I'm very, very honored to be on stage with him. He focuses on AI these days. And the other teachers as well, they will have a lot to share because some of them are helping teachers integrate technology into the classroom. It's sponsored by MassQ, which is highly respected in Massachusetts and the entire country.
What's
And
MassQ? I don't know.
I don't. So it's a platform that is Massachusetts. I don't know what the Q part stands for, but it is supporting the education and administration of teachers and schools in Massachusetts, private and public. And so it's just a respected organization. So for the fact that they're getting behind it and that we're bringing an AI Palooza to the stage is a big deal. Holyoke in general, especially Mount Holyoke, it's much more open-minded. They're always forward-thinking in what they do. So I'm not shocked that they chose that school because a lot of the schools are, Massachusetts is a very Puritan mindset. We don't like to change. We don't embrace things. You know, it's not San Francisco. It's definitely not Morocco. We like order and logic here and to take our time with things.
Your road system says otherwise.
Mine or theirs?
Boston's road system.
Oh,
yeah.
our road systems are a disaster, but our mindset is very conservative. And AI is not giving them the normal chance to stay in their logical, slow moving pattern. So it's a big moment for all the teachers to gather together. We've been preparing for this for 2 months now. I've spoken with educators everywhere from Austin to Dubai to China about what's happening in their classrooms, and we're presenting the feedback on stage in a few days.
That's gonna be awesome. Is it gonna be recorded live? Like, is it, you know, I'm assuming you're gonna be tweeting about it as well.
Absolutely, and I'll have my mom there too. So, I've asked her to be my social media person for the day, and so we'll definitely share. I don't know if we'll share the whole video, but if it works out, we'll share the whole video, and hopefully every room will have a recording, so there'll be plenty of information.
That's actually pretty cool. So yeah, no, I don't know. This has been fun. I want to thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And I want to be respectful. I know it's late there, you know, coming up on, you know, so thank you so much for taking this on a Friday night, you know.
Yeah.
But so as we wrap this up, we have TacoBytes ends in the same way every single episode. Mm-hmm. And because you're on stage with me, you get to help close this out. We end with words of wisdom and the greatest, worst knock joke on the face of the planet. And don't worry, I have you covered on the knock joke. And so, but I want to thank everyone that's joined us, everyone on LinkedIn, Player One Taco, YouTube, Degens YouTube, Twitch, Twitter video, Telegram, Rumble, Kick, on-chain via Abstract, and shout out to everyone on Arena as well. And so as we close out, words of wisdom, Marina, what do you got? 10 seconds.
Value the non-linear thinkers. They're, especially with AI by our sides, they're going to be the champions of this new era. So creatives, get your creativity back. Don't be afraid. Have a million ideas floating around. Plug them all into AI.
All right. Not bad. And I have said the same words of wisdom 967 times. So why not make it 968? But a closed mouth does not get fed, and you cannot feed a closed mouth. Meaning, if no one knows you're looking for opportunity can never come a knocking. If opportunity does come knocking and no one answers, just keep on walking. I want to thank everyone for joining us for TacoBytes, your daily bite of Degen, episode number 968, Cohorting AI Education. That was a fun title I came up with there. But we get to end on the greatest, worst knock joke on the face of the planet. So, Marina, are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
All right. Knock.
Who's there?